Yo, and good morning. This is the fourth week 4 in 2024, notable events, weather and sports. The Scottish show the English farmers how to do it. Scottish farmers are mobilising. Same reason you see across Europe. The state wants to bankrupt them under the altar of net zero policies.
On you come. Enough, that's enough.
See them go, the CNPA. The French are going for it, like the French do. This is in Greece. Bob, Bob. They've got the best sounding horns anyway. Play those beats.
Ils vont planter du chardonnay là, Leclerc. La semaine prochaine.
The French really know what they're doing. The French really step it up a level, don't they? Net zero. Net zero policies in play.
Moi je vais les balancer. Je vais pas parler.
2 o'clock in the afternoon. Good time of day for it. Back to the dumping ground.
Et combien de ça il faudrait encore? Combien de
guy just threw it straight up in the air there.
Jusqu'à où là vous irez? Pour nous. Combien de temps vous allez continuer à nous crever encore? On se laisse.
Well, there's the police.
Pas ce coup-ci.
Can't fertilise there, mate. Lithuania! Woo! Cheerlink guy on the philosophy of memes.
I think memes are an interesting form of both creativity and communication. And there are different philosophical views on the way that media, specifically from someone called Slavoj Žižek, defines a society and defines the collective ideas of a society and the collective consciousness at that specific time. And there's all kinds of analysis that Žižek and others do on how different movies in different points of time talk about how society feels and what society thinks. Examples are things like Star Wars and its parallels with World War II, and Jurassic Park and its parallels with other things that society was thinking about at the time, and various others. And so I think that while movies are a longer form version of the content that society gravitates around and sort of endorses by their interest in it and by their willingness to watch it, and by the way that the movie and the ideas of the movie or the underlying principles or philosophies of the movie speak to people, and people endorse those things by watching the movie many times, or paying to go to the movie theater, or talking about the movie, or saying it's their favorite movie on some forum or something. And so you can kind of say, oh, okay, society really is interested in these philosophical ideas because this movie gave it, The Matrix gave people this set of ideas. And then everyone a couple of years later is talking about simulations. And, The Matrix actually comes out of work by philosophers, not by people who make movies, right? So there's the philosophy, then the movie kind of puts it into public consciousness, and then it gets kind of recycled into some kind of clever sounding academic, semi-academic thing. We live in a simulation type of thing. And then, that idea kind of lives or dies on its merits. But I think that memes are because they're also entertainment. And the point of this theory is that entertainment can tell you the values of society because it gauges what society is interested in. And so memes I view as a kind of very creative, they can be viewed as art because many of them are very creative. And art, for me, basically is something that speaks to a person's unique personal experience. And so if a meme speaks to a person's personal experience, then that person can consider it art. So I think there's a lot of creativity and they can be considered art to the degree that they speak to a person's personal experience and make a connection for that person with whatever that meme is connecting them to or reminding them of. I don't think they're exactly political cartoons, but I think they can be like an interesting gauge of what people are thinking at the time or what they're feeling at the time and how those things look. I think the ability to, in a very small space, to generate something that speaks to a lot of people and gets their attention can be viewed as both art and as a barometer of how people feel at the time. And so it's an interesting thing. It's the short form version of lots of these things, of things like movies or certain types of art. It's just like written content has gotten shorter because people prefer to spend less time consuming content. Their attention spans have also gotten shorter. Memes are like the visual version of that, and they're the version of these things that people want to consume. So I think it's a natural progression, basically. And I think they can tell us a lot about society. I think some memes will be reviewed in the future, looking back to understand this was the kind of art or the idea or the image that defined a generation or defined how people felt or what people believed in. It won't be all memes. There's a lot of crazy stuff out there, but it's the same for all art and it's the same for all literature. There aren't a lot of things that define anything really. Defining things are few and far between and by definition kind of rare. So I think memes are very interesting. I don't make them though.
The complete price history of Bitcoin. Pastors do what pastors do best. Violent J from the Insane Clown Posse is a raging paedophile. If there was ever a face what screamed pedo, there you go.
Okay, thank you.
Dana White is a legend.
Dana, I just want to go back. You were talking about, like, you obviously give a long leash to your fighters about, what they can say when they are up there with a UFC microphone and you are getting into territory of homophobia, transphobia. Like, is there...
I don't give anybody a leash.
Well, I'm saying you...
A leash?
Like...
Free speech. Control what people say. Gonna tell people what to believe. Gonna tell people... I don't fucking tell any other human being what to say, what to think, and there's no leashes on any of them. What is your question?
I was asking that question. I'll move on, though.
Yeah, probably a good idea. That's ridiculous to say I give somebody a leash. Free speech. brother. People can say whatever they want and they can believe whatever they want. And I don't think there's any. We had two gay women who fought in the co-main event. They sat on the stage with Sean Strickland. They could give a shit what Sean Strickland thinks, or what he says, or what his beliefs are, or what his opinions are. You know what I mean? Go ahead. What do you got?
I want to go back as well. A number of months ago, you spoke with a Sports Business Journal about that.
Dr. David Martin.
Disease X, which you've heard about in the news in the last several days, is actually a branded derivative of a thing that was already a tabletop exercise called Cladex, which actually predates the Event 201 for coronavirus. But if you go back and you look at Cladex, you'll realize that Cladex is not just the brand name of a tabletop exercise, which was funded by Dustin Moskowitz, the co-founder of Facebook, and the one who has been the ghost check writer behind all of the actions recently. It's important for you to realize that Cladex is actually not only the tabletop exercise, but it's actually a venture partnership between Moskowitz and the Wellcome Trust. And the Wellcome Trust, for people not familiar with this, is one of the oldest criminal organizations in operation in the world. The Wellcome Trust is also known as the one of the largest charitable foundations of the UK, that in partnership with the Rockefeller Foundation by 1924 were the ones that collectively put in motion the process which came to 1944 and the proposal to fund the World Health Organization, which in fact they then funded so that they could actually get absolute immunity, as I've pointed out in many of my presentations in Europe. The fact of the matter is what they're doing in Davos is actually the dry run of the Cladex exercise to get ready for the passage of the IHR, World Health Organization Treaty reform, which is intended to take over a supra-sovereignty on any declared emergency, which is the reason why my organization continues to maintain vigilance on all the 64 scheduled and funded pathogens that are in the queue for release against humanity. And that list I have gone over in many presentations. I'm not going to bore everybody on this call, but the fact of the matter is what's happening in Davos right now is the planning phase, not unlike the Bretton Woods summit was in 1944, July of 1944, when Bretton Woods set in motion all this nonsense. The fact of the matter is what they're doing right now is they're planning the sequence of events where they can actually cascade another terror campaign, which then triggers not only the need for allegedly another medical countermeasure, but it also this time is going to involve the other piece that they failed to achieve with the COVID campaign, which is the eradication of cash-based transactions in commercial interaction. Because it turns out that one of the things that they desperately need to do is to make sure that they have central control on the flow of value exchange and the mapping of the networks associated with that. And because of that, it's critical that they plan better than they did with COVID, because they blundered their way into COVID. And unfortunately, they did not do the full control takeover that they wanted, which is exactly what is on the agenda for Davos this week.
It doesn't help looking like Lex Luthor, though. A recap on Matt Hancock's messages with Diamond Paul. Diamond Paul, no promises, but I'm trying to land a Bill Gates endorsement of a platform. Matt Hancock, tell him that considering how many people I'm getting his chips injected into, he owes me one. People have gone out and done their own experiments with the chips, potentially chip people. I've done a lot myself.
I just can't. Okay, turn around. Go, 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 go. Hi guys, it's January, Saturday, 2024. I'm at a train station here, so I'm going to hit pair devices. There's a few people standing in front of us, and there's a guy there, so I can see 3 people. The train's coming now. Watch where the train goes past. Look at this. It's not a very full train, but all them people are on the train. As the train stops, as it moves off, it'll get the people at the back of the train as well. Look. That's all the people on the train, folks. So I hold it. It's maybe got everybody, but the back end of the train, you see, you get more people because it hasn't quite picked them up. I'm showing the train as well. It's mad, look, it's 100%, that's the people. All chipped up with their LED lights and the radiation towers everywhere and the chemtrails in the skies, and they just don't get it. So let's see if we get more people at the back of the train. Let's just pick somebody's car up there. Yeah, we get more people here, we see. There we go, we're getting the rest of them at the end of it. There we go, the end of the train. Like, that's the people, folks. They're all chipped. They're all giving off a MAC address. They're all people. And that was did that. Nothing to do with the virus. It was all about to do with this. They had to frighten the public, to get the public to accept these, so they could put this technology, because that's what it is, it's technology, on the road to transhumanism. Look, the internet of bodies, they're trying to plug us into the internet. Look. But this has got to be the biggest crime in the history of the world. They're putting technology into people without their knowledge or consent. What can they do to these people now? This is the worrying thing. Look. But anyway, I won't keep it too long, look, but there you go. That's what happens in the train.
A group of doctors, including Dr. Robert Young, talk about how nanotech can influence human behavior.
Perceive it as his free will without realizing that he's been taken over.
Well, it's shocking and it's definitely dramatic, but it's a representation of what is going to be happening in the future. And when Harari actually stated, one of Klaus Schwab's right-hand persons said that everyone is hackable. Everyone is hackable. And this is, the technology is here. The technology you see behind me is biochipping. It's not make-believe, folks. As far as losing control of your mind, losing control of your body, the intention is control. The word is control. And the other word is depopulation. And literally taking over your level of consciousness with this technology. And it's happening through a technology of graphinated hydrosol, which is being aerosoled or injected into our bodies. And I'm seeing personality changes. I'm seeing people act different than they normally would, because this technology is literally influencing behavior. It's a psyop program. So we just need to be aware of it. It is, to even speak like this seems, irresponsible. Well, that's part of the control system. They're using light frequencies at different wavelengths to affect and also connect, that actually affect you from the inside out at the cellular level, especially for those who have been inoculated or transfected with this technology. It's part of the control system, from the street lamps to the traffic lights. This is all electromagnetically controlled, and it's a way of controlling us. And so, these cameras are locked in this technology as well. So they not only can track you by connecting you up to this Internet of Brains, Internet of Things, but they can also watch you with this technology. So it's very devastating. And I must say, people need to understand that this virus is electromagnetic frequencies that are connecting up and being amplified by a technology that we're being exposed to and that we're carrying with. I'm seeing this in both the vaccinated and the vaccinated. So you're going to react to your cell phone. You're going to react to the cell towers. You're going to react to your smart TV.
All corporations are just one mega corporation.
We're here. So let's break it down real simple. If you're going to go grocery shopping, owned by these institutions. They're highlighted in red if they're on all 4 of these sheets. They're darker orange if they're on 3 of them, and light orange if they're on 2. And there's only a couple that only appear once. It's mostly the same money. But we go deeper. If you go for the biggest tech companies, it's basically the exact same list for all 4 of these. That would be Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, Fidelity, T. Rowe Price, Geode, which is similar to Fidelity Associated, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. And then Northern Trust is on 3 of them, and Capital World Investors is the exact same thing as Capital Research and Management Company. So you might think, okay, these are the institutions that own the whole stock market. But who owns them? And see, if you've been around here for a minute, you already know. They all own each other. Just a giant cross-ownership pool. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because see, way back before I'd even posted a single video, I was sitting in my office reading this report from an anonymous user on Reddit. And he had noticed the exact same thing that I'm talking about right now. And he wrote a program to put all that data into a visualization so we can see who owns who. And I'm about to show you what he figured out. Let's take BlackRock, for example. This is a list of the top institutional owners of BlackRock and how much of the company they own. And if you visualize it, it looks like this, where the whole square is all of BlackRock's stock, and they get a percentage of that square based on how much they own. And the important colors to note are that white symbolizes us, retail investors, and gray symbolizes insiders that work at the company. So that would be like Larry Fink's stock, among other people. And everything else is other giant corporations, investment banks, like BlackRock themselves own a little bit. State Street owns some. Capital World Management owns some. Bank of America owns some. You see how this works? But then you think about it and you're like, well, wait a minute, because all of these institutions are owned by other institutions, right? So what if we put that data in here? Well, he did. And it looks like this. And you realize that all of this that was owned by Merrill Lynch is actually owned by all of these other institutions. And a little bit of us, retail, up there at the top. But here, we've only replaced Merrill Lynch's section. What about all of these guys? Well, then it looks like this. Remember, white is retail investors like you and me, and everything else is giant mega corporations. And if you go one layer deeper, filling in all those corporations with their corporations, you see how this program's working? And so then we simplify it to just black, gray, and white. And this is who owns BlackRock. White is retail investors like you and me. Gray is insiders at all of these corporations like CEOs and other executives. And black is just corporations owning each other. We'll call it Megacorp. This is the same process done for Bank of America and for State Street and for Best Buy, Amazon, Macy's, groceries, food, ingredients, building and selling homes, even less white, meaning us, retail ownership. As far as I can tell, there's only one company on the entire stock market that is not owned by Megacorp. Can you guess who it is? Do you know? It's GameStop. Except that this photo's out of date because it's from a few years ago. It probably looks more like this if you believe the public info, which is a big if. But more on that another time. This is not a video about GameStop. This is about Megacorp. Because see, when all of the owners own each other, all of their interests are aligned. BlackRock wants State Street to do well because State Street wants BlackRock to do well because they both own each other. So who is the real final boss behind all the money? Well, isn't that the $1 million question? And ever since I've been asking those more important questions, my follower growth went from this to this. So you're not going to find those answers on this channel. You're going to have to go follow me in other places.
Hopefully the reset agenda is being destroyed. Nobody's asked for it, and nobody wants it.
And Baron James, who was head of the Paris branch and the youngest of the 5 sons of our Uncle Rothschild, gave an astonishingly uninhibited description of the 19th century Rothschild policy of keeping it in the family. I'll quote to you from what he wrote and make you smile. In our family, we've always tried to keep love in the family. In this sense, it was more or less understood since childhood that children would never think of marrying outside the family, so that our fortune would never leave it. You couldn't write that today.
There's 2 reasons why the Rothschilds are into inbreeding. One is to consolidate wealth, and one is the bloodline. And if they only marry and have children with their cousins and brothers and sisters, that means the wealth never leaves the family. And I just want to put this out there. Russell Brand has had a child with a family member of the Rothschilds. They won't want money going out the family to a peasant, a supposed peasant. Read between the lines. A short section on the ridiculousness of anarchy and punks. I was a punk back in the day. I had lots of good fun, but we just got drunk and got wasted. Had a good laugh, but the reality and the ethos of it is totally stupid.
I want the government to have, I want there to be a coherent government, because chaos sucks. And even a corrupt, coherent government is better than no government. And I know a lot of anarcho-capitalists will squirt and go, "Oh, dare you?" No, they're agents of chaos. They're not adults. They don't have to actually think about anything real. They're just like, "Oh, no masters, no kings. Oh, no one gets to tell me what to do." Okay, so what if your neighbor just, builds a 40-foot skyscraper and shoots midgets off the top of it all day? What if they just do 24/7 blasting of metal rock? No one would do that. When left alone, everyone... No, I guarantee there's somebody that would love to open a cannon, a shooting range of cannons right next to where you sleep. And why not make money all night long? 24/7. Well, I would ask them to stop. What if they say no? What if they say, if you ask me again, I'll shoot you in the head? Well, then I call 911. Okay, well, they're gone now. There's no coherent system. It's just chaos. Are you going to fight them to the death? Are you going to confront them? Because one of you ain't walking away. That's the laws of the jungle, man. You want natural law. I'll tell you about nature. I live in it all the time. A predator likes to prey on the weak because a predator with a broken leg is dead. Dead. So it's like, when you confront someone, even if you're 95% sure you're going to win, 5% you lose, and that means you're dead. That means dad's gone. That means your kids are orphaned. You really want to roll those dice every day? The average, in nature, no one lives to be old. There is no dying of natural causes in nature. You are murdered, and then you are eaten by parasites. It's like this concept that nature is this kumbaya fucking balanced place. Oh, sure, it's balanced, but if there's an animal that can live to be 90, you're dead at 20. If there's an animal that can live to be 7, you're dead at 1. And you're going to die by another animal ripping you apart. Agents of chaos are on the rise. We have no clue what the future has in store for us, in my opinion. Well, it's going to be great. I mean, I'm not scared at all. Swear to God, zero fear. I get annoyed, and I have negative emotions. I mean, I get annoyed. Sometimes, I don't know, mostly annoyed. Mostly, I get disappointed. Everything is gang warfare. There will always be some system. There's different types of systems, though. It's like right now, the government is giving you the best possible outcome for you personally. I'm much closer to a warlord than anybody in this chat, and I promise you, it's the best fucking thing you got going on right now. It's like, oh, the cartels. Yeah, the cartels are governments. Those are mini governments. They emerge immediately when the major one. Oh, you're gonna have a monopoly on force. I'm very happy that the government has an alleged monopoly on force. You want everyone to have a piece of force? Okay, you're fucking dead. And just because you have your little shindigs with a bunch of other little feminized suburban men, out there are wolves. Not that far away. And those wolves are circling your ass. Anarchy is hell. Anarchy is a tremendous waste of energy and focus. Your life, 90% of your world would be about defending the meager existence that you have. So just know that. There will always be a system. Whoever said that is right. But if there's a vacuum, if there's a power vacuum, it results in a lot of chaos and destruction. And I promise you, these anarcho-capitalists have no idea what they're talking about. I live in anarchy. I live in natural law. This morning, my male duck had his head ripped off by a weasel. It's a constant balance. It's a constant, like roosters of the same species will fight each other to the death over raping rights. And then the hierarchy will kick one out, and then he doesn't have access to the food. So he's pacing the fence, trying to find a new existence. And then when the winter comes, he doesn't have shelter and he dies. And that's because he lost one fight. You want that? Or do you want a farmer like me to keep an order? You know what you want. Don't lie to yourself. Lying to yourself will get you killed, especially in times of chaos.
The telegraph is totally ridiculous. In commercial farming, in greenhouses, they use something called a CO2 generator, where it pumps out carbon dioxide, CO2, and it makes everything grow bigger and faster. Scientists being scientists, we've never been to the Earth's core. It's just not possible. They've only been 8 miles down. Also, scientists, the inner core may have started rotating in the opposite direction. Maps are all wrong. There's a scientific paper written back in the day called "It's Impossible to Measure the British Isles," and the idea behind it is no matter what unit of measurement you use, it's always going to be a different size. And there's also like tides and corrosion.
To us. For examples, did you know that maps misrepresent the sizes of countries and continents? This is due to the Mercator projection, introduced by Gerardus Mercator in the 16th century. Africa and Greenland appear to be almost the same size, but in reality, Africa is around 14 times larger. Alaska occupies as much area on the map as Brazil, even though Brazil's area is nearly 5 times that of Alaska. Madagascar and Great Britain seem to be about the same size, while Madagascar is actually more than twice as large as Great Britain. Scandinavian countries appear larger than India, but in reality, India is 3 times the size of all of them combined.
Wits it, gets it.
You know what degree tilt we're on in the globe Earth model? 23.4 degrees, okay? So taken from a 90-degree angle, that's 66.6. Does that number sound familiar? Yeah. Okay, now watch this. The circumference of the Earth in nautical miles is 21,600. That's 6 times 6 times 600. The curvature rate of the Earth, according to them, is 8 inches per mile squared. That's 0.666 feet per mile squared. We're supposedly going around the sun 66,600 miles per hour. The diameter of the moon is 6 times 6 times 60, 2,160. Do you think that all those 666s are a coincidence, or maybe is this a trick from the enemy that lied about creation and tried to make the scriptures look like they're not true?
To me, honestly, this sounds like a coincidence.
The Creator coincidentally made every metric of the Earth be the devil's number.
Not necessarily.
That's what would have to have happened, because that's what they told us it is. 666 everywhere. I just told you the specific metrics.
This is, at its core, though, it just feels like a superstition. Like 666, yes.
The scriptures say that's the mark.
Tiffany Trump and Naomi are best friends. On one hand, the voters who believe Trump and Biden are sworn enemies, one destroying America, and the other who can build it back greater again. Yet their children are besties. Mad weather storm? I've seen the edge of a weather storm myself once, walking home from school. It was proper tanking it down, and suddenly it stopped. And I was like, whoa, and I looked behind me, and it was like a shower behind me, and you could jump in and out. It was mad. Posh Asian man going for it again, lying to the public.
Well, in fact, Mr. Speaker, the plan is working because poverty is falling in our country. Since 2010, there are 1.7 million fewer people in poverty, including hundreds of thousands of children.
Let's break that bollocks down.
Since 2010, there are 1.7 million fewer people in poverty.
Well, imagine the shock for the Prime Minister when he finds out the number of people living in relative poverty has actually increased by 900,000 since 2010. That's almost 1 million. And over 14 million people are now living in poverty in this country. Over 14 million. If all that's not appalling enough, a shocking new report from Joseph Rowntree Foundation has just found poverty in this country is actually deepening. In 2021-22, a staggering 6 million people living in poverty were in very deep poverty, with an income far below the standard poverty line. That's 4 in 10. And more than twice as many, over 12 million people, had experienced very deep poverty in at least 1 year between 2018 and 2021. It's absolutely shocking. What reality is this Prime Minister living in?
Including hundreds of thousands of children.
The UK has just been ranked by UNICEF, that's the United Nations Children's Fund, as the worst among the world's richest countries in child poverty levels. Just think about that. And according to latest government statistics, there were 4.2 million children living in poverty in the UK in 2021-22. That's a staggering 1 in 3 children. And if all that's not heartbreaking enough, the number of children in food poverty has actually doubled.
Mr. Speaker, the plan is working because poverty is falling in our country.
The new report from Joseph Rowntree Foundation has found progress to eradicate hardship in Britain has actually stalled under the Conservatives since 2010. We've now got millions of people living in poverty. 9 million are skipping meals and cutting back on food. Millions more can't afford to heat their homes, and record numbers are using food banks. We've even seen a shocking rise in Victorian-era diseases since Sunak became Prime Minister.
Talk about calling people up into the army to fight some war. It's all a choice. They're going to have to rile the people up first, and they will try and rile people up, so watch out what's going on.
What's coming over the horizon?
So let me get this right. The government that has treated the United Kingdom's population like absolute garbage is saying they're going to draft fighting age men to go fight a war, which obviously we don't even want to be involved in. Only that. The ex-military that obviously have fought in wars are now homeless and living on the streets, but yet you've got foreign nationals living in hotels and all that shit. It's not even the worst thing. Over the last 4 or 5 years, you've suppressed the entire nation to feel dehumanized, demoralized, keep separated from our families, so where we couldn't even go to funerals because of obviously the restrictions, while you had parties. Not only that, you hiked up the cost of living, you hiked up the energy prices, you literally sit in your ivory towers thinking, oh, we're okay, la-di-da-di-da. Well, I'm going to say something right now, and I'm going to speak on behalf of the British people. Go get fucked. Like, honestly, do you know what? We ain't fighting your war. You know what? If it was years ago, I would have fought for my country, because believe it or not, I'm ex-army. I would have fought for my children. I would have fought for the freedom. But you know what? While you lot are in power, there is no freedom. You and the World Forum are trying to depopulate, trying to crush families, trying to obviously destabilise society for some bizarre reason. But the problem that you've got, there is people like me, and there is people out there who have actually got their brain switched on, and they're paying attention to what you're trying to do. And I promise you now, and I swear to God, if anybody was to give me a weapon to try and fight a war which I don't want to be involved in, I will turn it around on the people that give me it. Because there is no way anybody would ever force me to fight something which I truly don't believe in anymore. Because this government, we didn't put in power, we don't want in power, but yet they're still in power. There is no way on this planet, and I can vouch for a lot of British people, it ain't happening. Have your war, go fight it out, go have a bare knuckle with Putin, go do what you want. But I promise you now, there's a lot of British people that ain't gonna follow this bullshit. I'm sorry if I used a bit of vulgar language, but you know what? There is no way I'm going to actually submit to these assholes. Forgive my language.
And I'll end with a poem which was in a post-World War I pamphlet about keeping your guns. Your country? Who says you've a country? You live in another man's flat. You haven't even a backyard. So why should you murder for that? You haven't a hut or a building, no garden, no flower. No, it's true, the landlords have grabbed all the country. Let them do the fighting, not you.